What's up, everybody? Hello, welcome to the first episode of ANS Presents Talking SD, Talking Schmoedown. I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, and you know what? Screw it. I've been drinking a little bit. Why not go ahead and put out my 2 cents, my opinions on the Schmoedown? Because for those who don't know, Schmoedown is one of my favorite things in the world. I'm extremely passionate about the Schmoedown. I'm one of those quiet, passionate guys where I don't really post on like public forums or public Facebook pages, but I enjoy the Schmoedown so goddamn much. To me, it's the best sport that's out there that isn't like MMA or football. Like it's amazing. So for those who don't know, the Schmoedown is a movie trivia competition. It mixes wrestling, it mixes MMA, and it mixes movie trivia. So you got the character work of wrestling, you have the rankings and the matchup style of MMA, and you have movie trivia. And it makes for an exciting product that I think everyone can enjoy. And I want to talk about it, guys. I just want to just talk about what's going on in the world of Schmoedown at least once a week. And why not start today? The singles tournament is starting tomorrow with Gallegos versus Adam Collins, which is Dungeon versus Corruption. And everyone, for those Schmoedown fans, Corruption versus Dungeon is amazing. It's so much fun. So definitely looking forward to that. But before that, man, we had some great two great matches happen this past week. And before I get to that, I just want to get some stuff out of the way, some housekeeping, if you would say. So we have. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. If you don't know, me and my friend, we host a podcast called the ANS Podcast, Arm Bars and Suplexes Podcast. And it's all about MMA. It's all about wrestling. And we talk a little bit of movies, but we talk wrestling and MMA mostly. So if you're a MMA fan or a wrestling fan, it's the podcast for you guys. So if you would please go to patreon.com /armbars and suplexes and help support the channel, guys. It would really help so much. And get our podcast to where we want it to be. And I really appreciate that. You can follow me at Alec Miller 0423. It's right there on the screen. Boom, right there. And follow me there. I usually talk Schmoedown, talk movies, talk sports mostly is where you'll find that. So let's go ahead and get into some of these matches, dude. Like these last two matches were fantastic. The opening match, the undercard, you had the Pride, which is Ben Goddard, the Bandit Ben Goddard, and Rachel the Switchblade Silvestrini versus Final Exam, which is Primetime Paul Oyama and the Degenerate Lon Harris. And I'll be straight up. My original take, I thought that the Pride was going to take it, man. Ben Goddard, who I am a part of the Bandit Brigade, it's one of my favorite communities to be a part of. And I thought him and Rachel were really killing it in the studying aspect, man. Like they were destroying it. And I think they did fantastic in this match. But they got caught up on one question. And then you have former Movie Trivia Schmoedown champion Paul Oyama, and I think probably one of the most underrated guys in the league, which is Lon Harris. He knows so damn much about movie trivia. And the fact that he has taken the time to focus less on his character when he was a professor and just able to sit back, relax, and do his thing as a movie trivia Schmoedown competitor. And it's shown. Him and Paul are such a good team. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. And we saw in the match before this one, which was against why am I blinking? God damn it. Dang it. Why am I blinking on who the hell did they just play? Whitney Seibold and Alonzo Duralde against D13. They showed their teamwork in that last question. That last question could have gone either way. You had This Is 40 and you had Knocked Up, both basically in the same universe. You had the This Is 40 being the sequel to Knocked Up, and they talked it out. And Lon eventually went with what Paul was saying, and the answer was correct. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the entire time I was yelling, "It's Knocked Up! It's Knocked Up!" because I remember that scene when Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen were in Vegas, and the one line I remember hearing was Seth Rogen saying, "I am not your papa." But that's just me because I've seen the movie so many times. But it's so easy to get confused when that's the when you haven't seen those movies over and over again. It's easy to get confused, and the fact they were able to talk it out and Lon trusting his partner Paul to give the correct answer, because if that's a singles match, Lon gets that probably wrong, incorrect. But him having Paul being able to focus on the question and focus on working with Paul, it really helped, and I think that's a good sign for Lon. I think Lon is one of those guys that he hasn't quite learned the game, but he's on his way there. He's figuring it out as he goes, and I'm all about it, man. I love it. I love seeing guys learn the game. So yeah, we had the Bandit Ben Goddard taking on the Switchblades Rachel Silvestrini. I mean, sorry, not taking on. You have the Bandit Ben Goddard and the Switchblade Silvestrini. Fantastic nickname, Rachel. I love it. Representing my boy Jay White. Taking on Paul Yama and Lon Harris, and this was a back and forth match, man. It all came down to that second round, the spin that just ended up on Spy Movies. And I'm gonna quote my man. I'm gonna quote my man Brad Gilmore. That's not necessarily a category anybody is looking forward to getting. Is Spy Movies? Spy Movies is very broad. There's so many spy movies out there in the world, and that not many most think of. So I'm trying to look through the questions. I'm going to look through the questions to see if I can get them. It's kind of hard to get them. But it's a hard category to get. It's tough. So I'm not blaming them. I don't blame them at all for having a hard time with that. That's a tough category. But spinning away from John Carpenter, if that was me, I would have spun away from John Carpenter because there's so many of his movies that I haven't seen. And when I listened to the questions that they got, that final exam got, I'm glad that they spun away. But at the same time, I don't know what they would have known. I would love to hear what they would have thought about those questions, because if they were known those, hindsight's 2020, they could think like, oh, I would have got those. But I don't think those are horrible. Like, that's not something to kick yourself about. Those are tough questions for the final exam, for sure. But it all comes down to that 5-pointer, and God damn, that's a tough 5-pointer. But at the same time, you could see Ben was churning through his mind and trying to figure it out, and he knew the answer in his mind. So it really sucks that they didn't get it. But I think the Pride is one of those teams that's going to be sticking around for a long time. They're a team that works together so well. They balance each other out. You can see that first round they balance each other out, been able to get the perfect round. Rachel getting the 7 points in that round, which is fantastic. I love that. She's underrated, man. I think people need to get off of Rachel for a second. I'm looking at you, Frankie Janish. Frankie, you don't know me, but I think you should lay off of her. She's fantastic, and she's putting in the work, and you can see that in this round. In the first round of this match, she put in 7 points in this round. The same amount. I can't remember, but yes, she put in 7 points in this round, which I'm so proud that she did. And then Ben going perfect plus the bonus. Been like a boss, man. The seeing the amount of studying that they're both doing, but also seeing the kind of champion that Paulo Yama was, man. Paulo Yama was a movie trivia Schmoedown champion, beat the GOAT, the undisputed GOAT, and Dan Murrell. Like, he's nobody to trifle with, and he came out here ready to play, and that's what he did. He came in here ready to play, even when Lon made that mistake in the first round. He didn't beat up Lon, make him feel bad or anything. He's just, hey man, shake it off. Let's get to it. And that's a kind of mistake that in a singles match, or if you're in a teams match with the wrong partner, you can beat yourself up over that mistake and ruin the rest of your match. But Paul made sure that Lon didn't get down on himself and made sure that he just stayed in front of him, kept entering each question as it came, and it paid off for them, man. Final exam gets the win. He gets TKO, gets I believe it's 4 points. It was 3 points, I believe. They had 3 points, which brought them up to 27. damn, now I'm confused, man. The points thing is so confusing. Anyways, they were able to TKO, get the TKO, get the win and the extra points for Swag Squad, which really helped down the way. And Swag Squad puts himself in great position. And once again, great managing from Winston Marshall. My opinion, manager of the year. He's killing it. He knows how to talk to every one of his competitors and doesn't back down whenever one of them has something to say, but also doesn't just try to bully himself into it. Like he, even in the match we're about to talk about now, he had a point where he disagreed with his competitor, but instead of overruling his competitor, he listened to his competitor and it ended up paying off. And I think Winston needs to be shown some respect for that, for the fact that he is playing this. He's playing this the best way you can do in terms of sports, in terms of it being a sport. He's a coach. He's kind of Belichicking the entire thing. No one was expecting this guy to be where he was. He was the rookie, the new guy. He had competed before, but he had never managed before, and managing is not easy. Look at the dungeon, or look at Usual Suspects when they have a guy who's super busy and can't really give everything that he can to the team. You have a guy who is willing to give everything to the team, and he gave that for Final Exam, Paul and Lon Harris, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. But he gave it to Chandru, and this really sets up Final Exam and Swag Squad to make a big amount of points, because unfortunately, because of because of Chandru's big winning the IG championship, he is not going to be able to compete for a while. So that kind of takes Swag Squad out of any IG matches. He has his matchup against Chance, and I don't know how many IG matches are going to be scheduled in the future. Maybe none, but IG is shut down basically. So don't worry about that. But you have the teams thing going on with Lon and Paul, and then you have the singles tournament, which we'll talk about in a minute. And Swag Squad has a chance to make a lot of points this week. I'm about to pull up the schedule for the movie trivia Schmoedown. Give me a second while I look at that up. But let's go ahead and jump into Chandru versus Kevin Smets. Kevin Smets, the Smasher. Everyone loves the Smasher. But I think everyone was counting out Chandru in this match. And I'm saying everybody, but I'm not including that in myself, because I picked Chandru to win this match. I didn't pick Final Exam in the last match, but I definitely picked Chandru in this match, because I think Chandru did something that nobody else has done to Smets, and that was get in their head. In that first match against Kalinowski, I don't think Kalinowski got in Smets' head. I think Smets got in Smets' head, and that helped him. Like, I don't think Smets will ever get back in his head. He will never have to worry about that ever again. He will never have a don't tell Peter moment, because that is a moment that anyone can have. But Chandru did everything in his power to play his game and to take. And he basically would, and I equate it to an MMA when you're fighting a fighter who is mostly a striker, and then you start wrestling him. You're not necessarily dominating him, but you're making him uncomfortable. And I think that's what Chandru did for Smets. He made Smets uncomfortable right from the get-go in the first round. It starts with that surrogates challenge, which is a great challenge. Chandru, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That is a great challenge, for sure, because you won the challenge. And I love how Chandru didn't accept the original ruling. And maybe there needs to be a change to challenges in the future going forward, but that's not for me to decide. That's for the powers that be to decide. But I like that Chandru didn't give in to that first ruling. He said, you know what, there's precedent. He knew the game. He knew exactly what match to pull up. He pulled it up right away. I believe it was the Janine the Machine versus Chance Ellison match that he pulled up right away and was like, hey, this is the precedent you set. So are you saying that this precedent doesn't matter? And to me, that helps sway the judges, because all of a sudden the judges are like, oh damn, like you're right, we did make that ruling, even if it wasn't necessarily those judges. But when you set a precedent in a game, that precedent is set from then on until there is another moment that will reset that precedent. And even then, that moment to reset a precedent is so hard to do. It's not easy. When you set a precedent, it is extremely hard to overturn because you will have people arguing for that. And especially in a game like this, where precedent, to me, movie trivia, precedent is everything, guys. Like can it can decide championships. It can decide matches, certain precedent. Like, I don't necessarily agree with, and we'll get into this in a little bit. I'm actually going to go into it right now. But certain precedents shouldn't cannot be broken. But there are certain precedents that can be broken and can be changed, can be manipulated. But this is not one of those. So, in my opinion, I look at it from, and you're gonna hear me say this over and over again. I look at it from a UFC standpoint. Precedent is not always the greatest thing in the world. When you set a precedent, it makes it so that other people can exploit that precedent you just set. I will use, in terms of MMA, I will use Jose Aldo getting a title shot after losing a fight. Even though he technically won that fight, in my opinion, in Dana White's opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, he won that fight, so therefore he was given a title match right away. He did great in the title match, but lost in the 4th round. However, you set a precedent where someone can say, a fighter can come up and say, I won a match. Oh, yeah, I lost that, but technically I won that fight, so give me a championship match. It sets that precedent. So when you set precedent, you're making the outline of where you are in the rules. And the thing about precedent is once you set a precedent, it stays within that outline and it only gets smaller and smaller. So when you set a precedent like the thing and thing, you set that precedent, which is kind of like what was brought up here. The thing and thing. When you set that precedent, now all of a sudden, okay, so it's getting down to the point where articles are important. The article of said movie needs to be exactly correct. And I like that that's what Chandru brought up. Chandru brought up that exact point. He wasn't breaking any rules. And I will agree with Christian Harloff, even though I don't know if he explained it correctly to the other guys, but I know what he was trying to say because he's a wrestling guy and he knows what the dirtiest player in the game means. I will agree that Chandru is the dirtiest player in the Schmoedown. No doubt about it. He's the dirtiest player in the game. But for people that don't follow wrestling or don't follow any type of sports, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're cheating. That's not cheating. Like, dirtiest player in the game doesn't mean that person is cheating. They're not doing anything wrong. They are doing everything completely in the confines of the rules that are there. And Christian Harloff helped explain this a little bit to RB3. They didn't break a rule. They didn't mess up the rule. They're interpreting each rule to every letter, to every specific word that is in there. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfect way to, that's a completely okay way to play the game. But it's not how Christian Harloff intended the game to be played. And that's okay. This game is meant to evolve. This is a super young game. You take into account like football, basketball, baseball. Those are extremely old games. Baseball being played in the 80s. I mean, in the 1890s, the 1880s. Like, football was played like very early. Baseball was played very early. Basketball too. But yet those rules are constantly changing. They have meetings every year to decide which rules should be taken on, which rules should we try out, which rules should just go away completely. They have that every year because the game is constantly evolving. And you have to be able to do that with the Schmoedown. I mean, the Schmoedown, if you want to take it seriously as a sport, you have to be able to change certain rules. You have to look at certain rules and change them as they go. Because, like, you just look at most recently this year, after the Saints lost on a horribly missed pass interference call, the next year they made it where pass interference calls could be challenged. And that was never possible. Now all of a sudden that's possible. I wouldn't say it necessarily changed the game for the better, but it's a rule that had to evolve and to see if it worked. And it might not have worked for this certain example, But that's not to say that that example can't work for the Schmoedown. And I think you have to take that into consideration with the Schmoedown. The Schmoedown is a sport, guys. Like I at least I look at it as a sport. If you look at it from as guys playing this game, it's a mental game. It's chess basically, but with movie trivia. You're trying to one up this guy. You're trying to get in this guy's head. You're trying to figure out what he's going to do next and blah blah blah. Do this and that. I think also with Chandra having the big lead, that caused Kevin Smets to say, you know what, this is a big category in round 2, taking the Wizarding World. He's probably thinking this is a big category for Chandru. If I can knock out this category, he can't run through it like he probably would have. And that hurt him in the long run. He could have landed on the MCU. He could have landed on a DCEU or even a Star Wars, which I think people need to start recognizing that Smets is fantastic at Star Wars. And him being so far behind, I think he felt like he had to make up certain ground, which meant taking a category he wasn't necessarily 100% comfortable with, because you even heard Kaiser say it there. It's not our favorite. It's not one that we're looking for. It's not one that it's not your best. There's more that you're willing to take. But because Chandru was up by so much, it eliminates a category that he's favorable in. Smets takes it and he ends up missing 2 questions and gets 2, and Chandru gets 2 steals off of it, man. Like it's all gameplay. And you have to take that into consideration when you look at these players. That's why I wasn't quick to put Smets on my, like, not only my IG, I mean, not only my like movie trivia Schmoedown Rushmore, which some people are willing to do, but I haven't even put him in my IG Rushmore. He needs to do more, in my opinion. Not to say that he won't. He's fantastic. He's so good. The dude is locked in on everything he's doing. But it's so quick to call, just like I'm gonna say with Chandru, but it's too early to say great, like one of the greatest of all time, and that's why I was hesitant to do it, and to give him. And you're gonna hear these a lot of the times with my shows when I'm talking Schmoedown, a sports comparison. When Mahomes first came out, I wasn't willing to give Mahomes all the credit that people were saying he deserved. Now, when he started winning under duress and under like extreme circumstances, that's where I started to change my tune, because in my opinion, sports is one of those things where you can change your opinion. It doesn't have to necessarily be one way all the time. You don't necessarily have to think, oh, I don't believe Smets is Mount Rushmore. Doesn't mean I can't change that in the future. I have 100% hold the power to change that in the near future. I can say, you know what? Oh, you know what? Smets is Mount Rushmore type player, but I don't have to say that at the moment like everybody else was. Some of these guys have been overplayed. I was saying the same thing in the IG tournament. I didn't necessarily believe that Barbarian and Robert Parker were the favorites. My opinion, the favorite was Mike Kalinowski, but as the tournament went on, I was starting to lean towards Alex Damon. Chance came out of nowhere. Like, Chance was fantastic and deserves all the respect in the world. And if people were picking Chance to beat Chandru at the Ultimate Schmoedown, 100%, you are allowed to say that, because he has every chance to do it. However, I'm going to point to something that I think it was Kate that said it today on SEN. Someone that plays up against Chandru, who is so laid back and so relaxed and wants to get under your skin, is a bad matchup for someone who takes the game extremely seriously. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't take the game seriously, because if that's how you want to play the game, take the game extremely seriously. Look at Dan Murrell. Look at Sam Levine. Takes the game extremely seriously. Dan Murrell was extremely upset whenever Josh McCouga rubbed the belt on his underside. And that's 100% okay. However, if you're playing, it's all about strategy, and you're playing a guy like Chandru, who doesn't take anything seriously, or he doesn't take you seriously, and he wants to take you off your game. And if he realizes, like, hey, if I talk about this guy and say that he's not even on my level, or make make little cracks like, oh, this will be over soon. Don't worry, I'll end it quickly. If players like that notice that, for players that take the game extremely seriously, that are putting their sunglasses on and just focus on the questions 100%, there's a chance that person get under that person's skin. In order to combat Chandru, you need someone that is having just as much fun. They're not in the same. They're not in the same division or even on the same level. But you take a guy like Ace, and this isn't a Swag Squad podcast, but you take a guy like Ace, who in all of his matches just looked like he was having a good time. Wasn't hurting himself. Wasn't kicking himself about certain answers. Went out there, missed a question. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, and moved on to the next question. And it's guys like that that'll take down Chandru. I'm trying to find the equivalent of that. I think maybe Paul now. You know, the way Paul's acting now with his way, and even Ben Goddard. Even though I know he wants to, his emotions might get in the way because the way he's been talking about Chandru. But if Ben Goddard went in there like, hey, like let's just have a good time, let's have a good match, let's have fun. That could maybe get into the head of Chandru. But Chandru's probably played one of the best games that I've seen from a movie trivia Schmoedown competitor, and that's including Ben Bateman. I think he played one of the best games, better than Jeff Snyder. I think he's even maybe a little dirtier than Jeff Snyder, because Jeff Snyder or he has an advantage on Jeff Snyder, because Jeff Snyder, when what he doesn't know, he doesn't know. But Chandru's willing to get in there and study, as Winston said earlier, or after the match was over, that Chandru was the guy that was helping everybody else study. He was helping. I had Ace on the Armbars and Suplexes podcast, and Ace was talking about how Chandru was a big help. So I think Chandru is the next level competitor of takes the game extremely seriously, studies the game, but has that character work. I don't even know if it's character work, but he's able to play a certain character to get into the heads of his competitors, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That is a 100% good thing that'll only help Chandru down in the long haul. So I'm gonna just say congrats to Swag Squad, congrats to Chandru Danapani, the Chosen. I believed in you from the minute this match was announced, and seeing you get under Smets' skin. Smets, I hope that you're able to bounce back and have a great 2021, because the year is going to be yours. And I'm excited to see where this IG division goes. This IG division is getting so, and you can cuss kids on this podcast. This IG division is getting so fucking hard that it's getting extremely difficult to defend your title. Like it's really hard, man, and I'm looking forward to see where this goes. Does Chandru become one of the few people to defend the IG championship, or does Chance take it off of him? Oh, sorry. And Chance is one of those guys that could definitely take that title off of Chandru, so do not sleep on Chance. But since we're going to be talking about corruption right now, let's get into that first match that we're having tomorrow, Tuesday, August 11th. We have Andres Gallegos representing the Dungeon, taking on Adam Collins representing Corruption. Two rookies, man. Two rookies coming in here. I don't know what to expect. All I know is that I know both. I've seen both managers, Kaiser for the Dungeon and Shannon Barney for Corruption. And I can say who I'm leaning towards. And in terms of getting their competitors ready, I will say Shannon has the advantage. Shannon has done a great job of she got Mike ready, she got Chance ready, and she even got Laura Kelly ready for her tournament. So I'm not going to count out the queen herself in this match. Getting Adam Collins ready. Adam Collins is I know he's a fantasy. I mean, he's not a fantasy. He's a Fan Leagues guy. So I'm going to go ahead and be taking Adam Collins in this match, man. Shannon Barney just plays a huge role. And I love Kaiser, man. Kaiser's hilarious. I just don't know if his managing has shown through in this season, and it's tough because this is a different season where everything's online, and maybe Kaiser's a little bit better, when everything's a little bit more behind the scenes. But in terms of what we've seen, excuse me, guys, sorry. In terms of what we've seen, Shannon has shown that she can pull out the best out of her competitors, even over online. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with Adam Collins. But let me give me a second. I'm going to pull up the MTS schedule real quick. We Schmoedown. Oh, so crazy. Sorry guys, this is completely live, and I'm kind of just kind of having a few drinks, taking a step back, and not trying to focus too much on having a perfect podcast. Just having a good sit down with y'all guys, man. Talk about movie trivia Schmoedown, because it's something that I love, and I know it's something that a lot of people that I am in this community with enjoy. So that's what I'm trying to do here. We'll go ahead and look up the schedule. So I don't know if anybody's in the chat, but if you're in the chat, guys, please reach out, say hi. I would love to shout you guys out and just say hello. Especially if you're from the brigade. If you're from the brigade, drop a little hello, and we can talk a little bit. I'm excited, guys. So, all right, guys, I'm looking at the schedule now, and right here we have Adam Collins taking on Andres Gallego, as I said, Dungeon. Then you have on Wednesday, August 12th, Frank Moran representing Swag Squad, taking on James White, which they need to change this. Taking on James White, who represents the Den. And this one, I've seen James White compete in the fan leagues, and I think I'm gonna go. I'm not thinking. I'm gonna go with James White on this one. I think James White has shown in the fan leagues that he's willing to play. He was taken second for a reason, as much as he who shall not be named was basically like talked down on for it, for the pick, and for not knowing what he was doing. I think he did his research, and this is what I'm definitely going to be taking James White on. So the Pride gets a couple points here. Let me see if I can pull up the points real quick. Guys. Cheers, whoever is drinking or not drinking. I want to give it cheers, and hope you are having a great time listening to this kind of thrown together podcast. But I'm happy that you guys are listening. If you are, and if you're not, it's fine. But I'm happy that you guys are checking this out. So we have here I have pulled up in front of me the standings. So we have, if everything goes the way that I think it's going to go, Corruption picking up, I believe it's 3 points, which would put them at 30 points above the Finstock Exchange, which is good. That's great. I like that. I'm not a big Finstock Exchange, even though I like a lot of guys in the division, especially my man Andrew DiMalanta. DiMalanta, make the jump to IG, please, brother. I think you can do great. But yeah, so if we have Frank Moran taking on James White. So you have Swag taking on the Pride. With that win, in my opinion, would take the Den. If it's a regular win, it would be 3 points. So it's 15-18, which would keep them at third. Or 4 extra points will take them to 19. So they'll still be at third. The Den has a lot of ground that they need to make up. So I'm really hoping that the people that Kate chose to represent her in the tournament, end up working out for her. All right, but we're going to go ahead and go to the next match, which we have Marisol McKee taking on Bonnie Somerville, which is Corruption taking on the Burning Droogs. The Burning Droogs are all the way down at 8th place with only 9 points. However, I have not seen Marisol McKee play. I know a couple people have seen her play and then know that she's great, but I'm going to go based off of what I know. I know that Bonnie Somerville didn't have a great match against Brett Sheridan. Obviously, she lost by 1 point. However, she did take Janine all the way to the very last question. So I'm going to say Bonnie wins this match. based on the sole fact that I don't know anything about Marisol McKee. If I knew more about her, maybe I could make a better prediction, but I don't. So I'm not gonna guess. I'm not gonna pretend like I know. I don't know anything about Marisol, so I'm gonna go ahead and give the edge to Bonnie because of the fact that she has that experience. She's played already. So I would put the Burning Droogs, if it's a 3-point, if she gets a win, it would take them to 12 points. If it's a knockout, it would take them to so it's a 12 points and then 13 points if it was a knockout. I'm not predicting a knockout. I'm going to say it's going to be a pretty fairly close match. So the next match we have here is the undercard, which is Shazam, representing the Quirky Mercs, taking on Final Exam, representing Swag. And I'm not ready to give up on Final Exam yet. I think Final Exam is playing incredibly well, which would give Swag Squad, if it's a regular win, would take them to 34. But if they were able to get a knockout, which is highly unlikely against Shazam, it would take them to 35. However, I think it's going to be at 34 points, which would put them above. It would keep them above Corruption, still by 4 points. 4 points. So Swag Squad would be in a very good position still going into the rest of the fight. However, the main event of this pay-per-view match is Dan Murrow taking on Ethan Irwin for the singles title. And I have Dan Murrow taking this. I think Dan Murrow has been on the top of his game, and with this quarantine, he's only been doing nothing but studying. So definitely going to go Dan Murrow on this one, which would put the Exchange, and not in a knockout, in a regular win, which would put the Exchange up at, it would put them at 33 points. So it was still, with the way that I have it going forward, it would still have, I believe, 1 point behind Swag Squad, which is definitely a very close game, man. This is all of a sudden a very close league. Everyone thought that the Finstock Exchange was going to, run away with it. They haven't run away with it. They've had to, have long periods where they're not playing, especially with the knockout of the big knockout was Barbarian in the IG tournament, because the only other person that they had in the tournament was Emily Rose Jacobson, which needs to study a little bit more to get where she wants to be. But that was a big loss for Finstock Exchange, and I kind of put them behind when you have Final Exchange, you have Final Exam going as far as they're going, and Changer taking the big win against Mets. So, Finstock Exchange has a lot to take up on, to catch up on. But the guy that you want to go to bat in the final inning, 2 outs, bases loaded, the guy you want coming up to bat is the guy who's going to be playing this Friday, and that's Dan Murrow. I think he's gonna take this one. He's been studying a little bit more than I believe Ethan has. I know Ethan said he's been studying, but you're gonna take it with a grain of salt. However, he hit a very, very good animated question, Disney question, with that Lilo and Stitch question against John Roca. However, and I'm not gonna blame him for that miss on the Emperor's New Groove, because I got it, but I only guessed it, and I just guessed it because I was like, maybe, I don't know. That was the only 2000s Disney movie I could think of, besides like Atlantis and Princess and the Frog. And those didn't feel right. So I get, why he missed it, because you could completely understand, like, that's a tough question. So yeah, guys, that's it, man. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. Thank you for everybody that watched in the replay. Let me know in the comments below who you have winning the next matches, whichever one you're watching first, whether it's all 3 or all. No, we're getting 5 matches technically, because we're getting Adam Collins Gallegos, James White and Moran, McKee and Somerville, and then you're getting the 2 matches on the pay-per-view. So we're getting a lot of matches. So hit me up in the comments and say what you're thinking. Hit me up on Twitter at AlecMiller0423. I believe the Instagram is the same thing, so you can message me on there or hit me up on Instagram and tell me what you're thinking about that, man. I'm going to be putting out a lot of Schmoedown content, guys. Schmoedown content is going to be coming out fast and furious. And I'm like, super excited because everyone's doing this, and I'm not trying to bring anything new. I'm just trying to bring my own opinion. And if you enjoy this and my opinions, I appreciate that. So I'll check you guys next week to talk about the results of this past week and the upcoming week next week. So it'll be a much longer show. But yeah, I'm Alec Miller here, Sinister Alec Miller. If you're following me in the fan leagues, and catch me on Alec Miller 0423. Catch the ANS podcast every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, talking about MMA, wrestling, all that good stuff, and join there. And you can catch us live right here on the same page. But I will hit you guys. I'll see you guys next week for talking Schmoedown. Peace out, guys.